A federal judge on Friday refused to order a do-over election in the 28th district. That's the Fredericksburg House race of delegates that was tainted by errors that caused at least 147 people to vote in the wrong district. But the judge not overturning this, as the Democrats had sued for in a hearing Friday night, Judge T.S. Ellis III of the Eastern District of Virginia declined to order a new special election in the 28th. He said there's going to be no redo, and he said he would not issue a preliminary injunction blocking Republican Bob Thomas from being seated when the GA convenes on Wednesday. Ellis said he saw the importance of the mapping errors that caused some voters to cast ballots in House districts they didn't actually live in, but he said the problems were small-scale errors, not the type of far-reaching systematic issues that would invite federal intervention. So he declined to get involved from the federal level, and so that was that. Ellis' refusal to issue a temporary injunction doesn't end the case outright, but it likely means the lawsuit will not cause legal serious trouble for the Republicans going forward. The Democrats in the case, a group of voters who received erroneous ballots, said after the hearing that they were considered their next legal steps, which could include appealing to a higher court. And this was reported in the Richmond Times-Dispatch on Saturday by Graham Muwa as we go over his piece on this. He also said that the 28th district, which is currently represented by Speaker Howell, who just had a heart attack, but he's recovering, by the way, very, very well, was the only close race of the three affected districts. But the judge said basically that he didn't feel that federal intervention and causing a new election made sense. Thomas won by 77 votes, and there were 127 ballots that went out. The odds of that election being overturned because of that, he said, they were not great. They were very, very small because the Democrat would have had to win, 85% of the ballots. And if you looked at the ballots, the majority of the people voted for the Republicans. So it just didn't make any sense for him to do that. So that's out. Bob Thomas has a certificate of election. He will get seated on Wednesday when the House organizes and convenes. And we'll be following that very closely in the 6th district. And what just happened there, so I'll kind of go over what happened in his absence. So there is a convention. Now, the 6th district is represented by Bob Goodlatte, who's retiring, right? So got to remember, the nomination method is up to the 6th district Republican leadership or Democratic leadership, whatever the primary is, if there's no incumbent. Now, if there's an incumbent, then the way the Republican rules work is the incumbent can choose the method of renomination. So obviously, if Bob Goodlatte wanted to stay around, he would not choose a convention where he can get beat by a right-wing Tea Party type. He would choose a primary, but he's retired. So now it is up to the committee to choose their form of their method of nomination. So everybody knows that the 6th district based in Lynchburg is made up of very conservative groups of people. This would be the various committee chairmen from the various towns in there and however their structure is. So everybody knew they were going to choose a convention, no doubt about that, because they want to get most far right candidate they can. But what they did Sunday, and there, by the way, are 6 people in that race. What they did Sunday in a meeting is the members of the 6th District Republican Committee in Virginia elected to hold a convention in which the delegates only cast one ballot. And then whoever gets the most votes on the first ballot is the nominee. This is unprecedented and very dangerous. And this was done by Cynthia Dunbar's supporters. I'm going to go into this here in detail so you know what the deal is. So normally when you have a convention, you keep voting until there is 50% plus one for a compromise candidate. For instance, if you have 6 people in the race, on your first ballot, you would eliminate the bottom vote getter, and then there'd be 5, and then 4, and then 3, and then the final 2, and then there's a vote, and then somebody emerges the winner. Now, why this is a healthy process in a convention is it ensures that the nominee gets at least 50% of the convention votes. If you do what the 6th district has done with 6 candidates, you could get a nominee after one convention vote that has 20%. Everybody else has got 15, 18, 19. 1 out of 5 convention voters that have to go through the process to be delegates can choose a nominee. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Now, the 6th district has made this into a single ballot affair. And this was done by Cynthia Dunbar supporters because they feel they can get enough people out there to win on the first ballot, but then they wouldn't be the nominee if the ballots went on because she would be nobody's second choice. Does that make sense? So what you really have to do to win a convention, if it's multiple people, is you have to be some people's choice number 1 and a lot of people's second choice. Dunbar is nobody's second choice. So the candidates in this are House of Delegates member Ben Klein, State Committee woman and Cruz supporter Cynthia Dunbar. By the way, I battled her at the convention in Cleveland. I battled her for her and her friend Ken Cuccinelli for delegation chairman, and we fought on the phone at midnight numerous times. So whatever. Also in the race is Chaz Haywood. I believe Chaz is the Circuit County Clerk of Court and Circuit Court Clerk or something. I have to get his exact title. Also is Ed Justo, Catherine Lewis, and Chan Park. This is essentially a 2-person race. Klein, Dunbar. A lot of people are supporting Haywood, but it's unlikely Haywood is going to win this. So it's a 2-person race. So the Klein people thought their pathway to beat Dunbar in a convention was they get their people there, Chaz Haywood gets his people there, other candidates get their people there, and Dunbar is going to win on the first ballot, maybe 35, 40%. If she gets under 50%, like 38, 40, and people start to get eliminated, she's no one's second choice. So Klein's pathway to victory in a convention is to get all of the losing candidates' delegates to back him rather than Dunbar. And that if it got to a final ballot between Klein and Dunbar, Dunbar would not have 50% plus 1, and Klein would likely be the nominee. That was the thinking. So the Dunbar people changed the rules and said, nah, screw that. We're going to go with 1 ballot. Therefore, all the establishment-type candidates can't gang up on our candidate, Cynthia Dunbar. So basically, they're changing the rules in order to help a candidate. Bad idea. That's never a good idea. That's why I hate conventions. I hate them. Now, I was for the convention for selecting governor last time. Why? Because that was the deal that we made in the Trump campaign with the convention people. And I believe, unlike Ken Cuccinelli, I believe if you have a handshake, you stick with the deal. And the deal that we made is we wanted a primary for Super Tuesday, which we knew we could win, for Trump in 2016. And we said, if you give us that, all the key Trump people will back a convention for governor and lieutenant governor and everything else in 2017. And I stuck with my word. I was for a convention the entire time, and I didn't feign it, because I believe if you shake hands with somebody and you give your word, I was the vice chairman of the Trump campaign at the time. I gave my word. I stuck by it. Ron Hedlund overturned that. He was a deciding vote to go to a primary. Now, that's gone in the past. Now there are no deals. It's all done. But I hate conventions. And here's why. You get the shenanigans that goes on. I mean, all this does is create bad blood. If you have a primary, you have to go out and get the votes and win a primary. Spend money, raise money, knock on doors, do all that stuff. A convention is different. Nobody can just show up. You have to go through the filing deadline, get delegates. I mean, it's a very exclusive process. Some people don't have time to sit there on a Saturday for 9 hours or 5 or 6. Right? They just don't. Coupled with the fact that everybody's mad. Everybody comes out pissed, except for the winner, because it's hand-to-hand combat. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to go through when you're sitting there in a convention making deals, and candidates are getting eliminated and people are going home. I mean, the whole thing is a mess. Coupled with the fact you don't get any voting mining data. The whole thing is asinine. And it's not helpful going forward. And the people that love conventions are a handful of super right-wingers that want to control the nominee, and they do that by the crap that went on in this district meeting in the 6th district, and it's crap. Now, this was put forward by those that are Dunbar backers. And according to the Roanoke Times, when the 6th District GOP committee met Saturday at the Stonebridge Center to decide its nomination method, Committee Vice Chairman Matt Tedrick pushed a vote by plurality method to prevent what he said career politicians from stacking the deck at the convention. Tedrick backs Cynthia Dunbar. So Tedrick is changing the rules to back his candidate. I mean, it's always been by a consensus. I mean, how do you want to come out of a convention, which is brutal to start with, and somebody's the nominee and they got 29% of the delegates? I mean, how does that make any sense? I tell you, the Republican Party in Virginia is such a unequivocal disastrous, like the elephant graveyard. And they make stupid decision after stupid decision to stab themselves in their own head. Tedrick went on to say there's a lot of gamesmanship that takes place. Look, go out there for Dunbar, sign a bunch of delegates up, and win the convention. And in order to win the convention, you got to get other people to vote for her than your own people. That's the way you win an election. Not by just getting 29%, Tedrick. But these people don't care. They just care about who the nominee is. And I have no axe to grind right now against Cynthia Dunbar. And even in a regular convention where you get a consensus of 50%, I would still make Dunbar the favorite. These people know how to run conventions. Dunbar is a convention beast. Look, she went in as state committee woman. Nobody heard of her. Her video running for state committee woman was by Rick Perry in Texas. So I thought it was bizarre. Nobody heard of that woman ever. She comes in and she beats Suzanne Obenshain in a convention for state committee woman in Harrisonburg, Obenshain's hometown. Chris Shores, her consultant, and Waters and these people, they live for these conventions. They have it down to a science. And so she's going to win the convention most likely anyway, but why would you change the rules? This makes no sense. This is why I hate conventions. I hate them. Have a primary. Go win a primary. Go get people involved. Get volunteers. Put signs up. Run a primary election. Get the voting data. Then you get those people back out in November. These conventions are divisive. They're hand-to-hand combat. They're inside baseball. They're mean. Everybody's pissed. And your party sucks anyway. Why would you do this? So you can manipulate the system to nominate your favorite candidate. Now, they're not going to do a primary, right? I get it. That committee controls it. They're all pro-convention people. Go have your convention, but now don't change the rules. Now, what Ben Klein says is not so fast because the rules are not set by the committee ahead of time. They're actually set by the delegates. So in order for Klein's people to change the rules to a consensus rather than a one-vote plurality, they would have to have the votes in order to do that at the convention on the floor, and they adopt the rules. So now we have another fight there over the rules. So let's fight over the rules, and let's fight over the nominee, and then let's fight, do hand-to-hand combat, and let's everybody get mad, and everybody do gamesmanship, and let's fight all day, and then come out with a fractured nominee for the 6th district. What the hell does that serve? John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth. You want to know why Republicans are so bad in Virginia? It's things like this. They're never going to win an election. They're worse than the Cleveland Browns. At least the Browns had a parade.